A Wisconsin Elections Commission discussion of uncounted ballots in Madison devolved in a shouting match today, with the Democratic chair threatening to kick a Republican commissioner out of the meeting. The commission launched an investigation in January after learning that Madison City Clerk Mary Beth Witzel-Behl failed to count almost 200 absentee ballots in November. Commission Chair Ann Jacobs said today that dispositions continue. Commissioner Bob Spindell tried to talk about how the commission should pay more attention to problems with Milwaukee elections, but Jacobs started shouting over him. She allowed him to stay in the meeting.